Okay, I think it's 6:30 and looks like everybody's ready to go, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Goss. Here. Harper. King.
Here.
Lakshin.
Here.
McGuire. Michaels. Pasalacqua. Paul. Here. Rodriguez.
Here.
Storr. Straub.
Here.
Summers.
Here.
Taylor.
Here.
Thorsland.
Here.
Benish Thiranot.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
Vulcan.
Here.
Carter.
Here.
Cowart.
Present.
Esri.
Here.
Furtado.
Here.
Patterson.
Here.
Okay, there's a quorum present. The meeting will move forward. Tonight, as we experience the temporary influx of many residents new to our community, I am going to read from the Apsaroke people of Montana. I'm sorry, wrong one. A prayer from Polynesia. Lord, today you have made us known to friends that we did not know before and given us seats in homes that are not our own. You have brought the distant near and made brother of a stranger. Thank you. Would you rise for the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Clerk, would you read the notice of the meeting?
Notice is hereby given that a regular meeting of the County Board, Champaign County, Illinois, will convene on August 18th, 2022, 6:30 p.m. in the Shields Carter Meeting Room, Brookins Administrative Center, 1776 East Washington Street, Urbana, Illinois, in said county for the purpose of allowing and ordering payments of claims against the county, receiving and acting upon reports of committees and such other matters as may be brought before said meeting, which said meeting shall continue in session from day to day until the completion of said business.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda and the addendum that was sent to you as well? Ms. Cowart? I can't even see you, Jenny. Clear back there. Jenny Lakshin. Those in favor? Those opposed? I'm sorry. A correction on the agenda.
On the addendum, it says it's for the primary election, not the general.
Oh, that's not the, well,
I'm sorry, what?
that's an item that we're going to be voting on, so we can make the correction at that time. That's not an agenda item correction.
Okay.
Okay. Any other corrections that people want to talk about? Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, we have an agenda. Next is the date and time of our regular meetings. In September, we do have our standing committee meetings, committee of the whole, and county board meetings, all as usual. There's also a special finance meeting I want to call your attention, which will be on Thursday, September 29th in this room to talk about the budget. Next is public participation. I have one slip up here from Dave Beck. You'll have 5 minutes. Go up there and then push the button down when the light turns red. You're on.
That work? Yep. Okay. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Dave Beck. I'm a regional director for AFSCME Council 31. We represent many of the county employees, as you probably know. I just wanted to take a couple minutes to speak about our ongoing negotiations. We are now 230 days without a contract, and in fact, management has canceled, I believe, the last 2 meetings. Really, this is just unacceptable, right? There seems to be no urgency, no sense of caring about these employees to get this contract done. Our members haven't had a raise in 19 months. And in that time period, the cost of living has increased by 13%. Our members are struggling. They're struggling to pay the rent, to buy the gas that they need to get to work, to buy groceries. And yet, even though our committee has met 11 times with management to negotiate this agreement, and our members have come before this body multiple times to explain that your team is not proposing a fair contract and what that means to our members, we still haven't seen proposals that show the county respects the work that these folks do. Instead, as I mentioned, we've had the most two recent meetings canceled. One of the issues that remains unresolved is really just baffling to me. The county refuses to offer the same sense of security when it comes to the health insurance premiums for 12 of our members that you are willing to offer to all of our other members. Our members have made it clear that they won't accept this, and yet the county refuses to budge. And to be clear, we are talking about a relatively small amount of money to the county. We estimate the cost this year is less than $2,000. And yet I notice in your agenda that you're voting to add a management position that's going to cost another $22,000. You also have on your agenda a notice that you have increased a surplus of, I think, roughly $400,000. And yet you're quibbling with us about something that's going to cost less than $2,000 a year. And this just shows a complete disrespect for these employees that are keeping this county running. And they are just worn out by it. And by that, I do not mean that they are ready to give up, in case that's what you think I mean. They are not ready to give up, but they do not believe that this county values them. And anybody that's ever been in management knows if your employees don't feel valued, the work is going to suffer. And that means the citizens are not going to get the same level of service that they've had in the past and that they deserve. So I urge you, please respect your employees and get us a contract that's fair, okay? Thanks.
Okay, was there anyone else that wanted to speak during public participation? Okay, seeing none, we will move on. We have a presentation this evening. Brad Gould is here from our Veterans Commission and would like to talk about Operation Greenlight.
First, thank you for your guys' valuable time. I received an email from the National Association of Counties last week, and it's something they are trying to get going. It's called Operation Greenlight. They want to, the week of November 7th through the 13th, it'll be a Monday through Sunday, is to shine lights at on county buildings green for the veterans. They noticed that there's over 200,000 military people going into civilian life every year, and that they are very prominent in your committee. There's people like me in 29 different states. We also helped to bring, last year's total was $52 billion back to veterans that it sounds like it was given to them, no, their body got screwed up by the military to do that. I have spoke to Dana. I don't know if Dana's here or Chris is here today. We realized that doing the whole Abbott County building is next to impossible. We have talked about purchasing film. It's under $100 to put on the spotlights at the courthouse and the monument downtown, except the spotlight on the American flag. If we turned that to green, you guys would get so many calls that it wouldn't be funny. So that's what I came here to do, to see if we can push forward this. The packet from NACO is very easy. I actually have a resolution. I know it's not in the proper format. They give you everything. They gave us social media things to go to the radio station. And if it would get approved, then I would also start contacting Champaign and Urbana city buildings and see if they can do something along the lines too, and rental. So that's as easy as I've got.
Probably, Brad, a good thing to do would be take it to the policy committee, which would be in the next meeting in September.
Okay.
And then they could bring a resolution back to the board if they wanted to do that.
Okay.
But you're saying you have the money for it, correct? The $100 for the film?
That's-
will come out of your budget, or they?
I think Dana said roughly $52 to $70 it would cost to get that film. Just, we wouldn't change any light bulbs out. It's just placing the film over the spots, and then the film can be taken off, that easy. Instead of changing buying light bulbs and changing them all, it would just be a film.
Okay. Did you have a question, Steve?
More comment. I'm sure Member Harper and I would be happy to talk with Facilities Board and with Dana in terms of making sure that we have things moving in the correct direction on that as well.
Ms. Furtado?
I mean, this seems like a great idea. Do we have to vote on it? Can we, right? They can do it, right? So, I think we should just do it. I mean, it's 100.
If there's any objection, we don't really need a resolution, Brad, so we could just take it forward.
I was just
Okay.
looking at the package that NACO sent out. And,
Maybe we
Ms.
could still
Laxton?
do a resolution to show the board support of it, but I don't want to hold up the light.
That's true, too. Ms. Laxton?
That's what I was going to say. I think the resolution's probably part of the ceremony of it, but as Steve said, we could probably bring this up in the Facilities Committee the first week of September and get it squared away.
Ms. Straub?
I just wanted to thank you for coming tonight and giving us the opportunity to show support.
Thanks.
Mr. Storr?
I think that it needs to be voted on by the policy committee, policy personnel and appointments, that should be added there and
Evidently, the board wants to do a real resolution, so we will take it to the policy committee, Brad, in September.
Okay.
And they can do a resolution, but we can go ahead with the lights, so,
All
That's
right.
fine.
Do I need to give a copy of this to save people some work?
to me.
Okay. I'll
Yeah.
give it to you on Monday then.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you for your time, folks.
Okay, now we're moving on to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda? Mr. Esri, Mr. Goss?
So moved.
Okay, those in favor, we need a roll call here.
Yes.
Harper?
We're voting on the consent agenda.
King?
Yes.
Lakshan?
Yes.
McGuire?
Yes.
Paul? Rodriguez?
Yes.
Storr? Straub?
Yes.
Summers?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Thorsland?
Yes.
Vanish Thernot?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Wolken?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Cowart,
Yes.
Esri,
Yes.
Furtado,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. We're now on to board communications. Does any member of the board have something to share about the business of the board? Mr. McGuire?
Thank you. It has to do with the clerk's office and the website mostly. The ballot order on the website was incorrect, and the clerk was able to correct that and put the Republicans first. Some people have been asking about a sample ballot that shows that Republican as first on the ballot. And then there's been some issues still with judges, people applying to be judges, to be able to be acknowledged or be able to take the test. They get a code, and for some reason they can't sign on to the website. So I just wanted to try to make the clerk's office aware of that. I don't know that anybody's here. I know we have something on the agenda later, but I don't want to know if there's any way we can get those issues fixed. Thank you.
Mr. Williams?
I would like to point out that the ballot can't be a sample ballot yet, because the ballot, there's still stuff to be added. There are challenges that need to be resolved. There are resolutions that can still be put on by governing bodies up until Monday. So it would be not prudent to put out a sample ballot, because that involves a lot of programming that they might then have to reprogram. So I would just like to put that out there. I'd also like to urge the bargaining team to get back to the table, and I hope that we can come to a fair contract with our employees as soon as possible.
Any other communication about board business from the board members? Ms. King?
I'd like to thank Mr. Beck for coming to talk to us tonight, and I hope AFSCME continues to give the county hell, because obviously we're not coming to the table with anything worthwhile.
Okay, we'll move on now to approval of the minutes. Can I get an omnibus motion, well, not omnibus, just motion to approve the minutes of July 21st, 2022? Mr. Summers? Second, Mr. Patterson. Any discussion or correction of the minutes? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Standing committees, we are now approving the summary of action taken July 2nd, 2022 is received and placed on file. The summary of action taken August 4th, 2022 is placed on file from Environment and Land Use, but they did have an outstanding issue to discuss tonight. Would you like to make the motion and the recommendation, Eric?
Yes, thank you. I move to approve ordinance number 2022-5, approving a zoning ordinance text amendment in zoning case 037-AT-22. And I have some things to add after a second from Jenny, thank you. At the May 26th of 22 public hearing, the ZBA voted unanimously to recommend enactment of this amendment. 2, the original version of this amendment included a proposed change to the maximum height requirement for wind farm towers, but the ZBA did not recommend approval of that part, and that part is not included in what we're voting on tonight, not included in this ordinance. 3, a very significant amount of public input was received during the public hearing for this case, including emails, letters, and testimony during the public hearing. The public input was summarized in the findings of fact that was included in the June ELOC agenda. Number 4, a resolution of protest was received from the Village of Philo on May 19th, 2022. No other municipal comments have been received. The municipal protest will require 17 votes for approval. That protest was also included in the June ELOC agenda. Mr. Hall is here if anyone has questions. And because of the protest by the Village of Philo, this amendment must be passed by the affirmative vote of 17 board members, and I move for a roll call vote. And just in brief summary, the 4 items that are part of what we're voting on tonight are the farm ground remediation, the right to farm, the advanced lighting systems, which is an improvement of our current ordinance, and a change in the fees that the county receives when a wind farm application comes in. Those are the 4 things that are on this vote. Questions for Mr. Hall?
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay,
Yeah,
Ms.
Tony
Lockshin.
seconded.
Any further discussion? Mr. Williams?
I'd like to make an amendment, the amendment being to strike item 4.
But the resolution of protest,
The fees.
the fees, you would like to strike the fees?
I would like to strike the amendment, so the fees will stay the same.
Okay,
Mr. Williams is proposing that we not change the fees and eliminate that amendment. Is there a second to that? Nope. Sorry, that does not get accepted. Okay, we're back to the original motion. All right, let's take a roll call vote.
Goss,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lockshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Paul,
No.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Storr,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
yes.
Finish Theranot,
Yes.
Williams,
No.
Wolken,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Cowart. Yes. Esri,
Yes.
Furtado,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
It's 18-2, the motion carries, and you have your 17 votes. Okay, thank you. Moving on now to Highway and Transportation, the summary of action is taken, is taken for a file for the August 5th, 2022 meeting. And we also have the summary of action for August 9th, 2022 for the Committee of the Whole is received and placed on file. And now we're down to new business. Unless there's objection, I'm going to do items A and B together from the auditor. Can I get an omnibus motion for adoption of resolution number 2022-177, authorizing payment of claims, and adoption of resolution number 2022-178, authorizing purchases not following purchasing policy? Ms. Furtado? Thank you. Ms. Taylor, is second. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. The next is a motion from item C from the addendum. It was added. Can I get a motion for adoption of resolution number 2022-182, establishing the place of election for the 2023, and it says primary election, but I believe we're going to do a correction. So, Ms. Straub,
So moved.
do you want to make the correction in your motion?
Yes, I would like to replace the word primary with the word general.
With the word general?
Yes.
I'm sorry, general, okay. Ms. Straub? Second?
I mean, Lockshin?
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I keep
I
getting you
second.
two mixed up, I'm sorry.
You're not the first.
Okay. All right, any discussion on the resolution?
I just want to note the same issues I had with the last list of polling places, that we have cut polling places in Mahomet and Rantoul, and then saw during just the primary some massive problems in those polling places. Actually, we saw problems across the county during the election day for the primary. It doesn't seem like, again, that the rural areas are being served properly by this county board or its clerk. And these issues should be changed or repaired or fixed if we're really going to give people the opportunity to vote properly. Thank you.
Mr. Goss?
Yeah, do we have somebody from the clerk's office here? Guess not. That's not that atypical. We're moving Rantoul and Ludlow people to Ludlow.
Now, the last time we moved somebody around, we didn't even check to see if they had adequate internet service. And we can't vote without the internet up there. And I'd like to know an answer to that, whether that's available, whether we've done any research whatsoever. You've taken people out and moved them to an itty-bitty small town, and we have no idea what their internet service is there.
Ms. Lokshin.
I'm not from the clerk's office, obviously, but I've worked many elections, and I can reassure you that the polling places carry their own internet service. They bring hotspots that are tested before every election. We know that there's functional internet at the polling place for all of those.
Yeah, that hasn't been the case in the past, recently.
For the elections that I've worked, it has been the case.
Any other discussion?
Yeah. Is there any way that we could realistically set up a program with C-cards or the tools that we have to get people in Rantoul or just in general to polling places? Is there a way to facilitate specific transportation for voting in general? 'Cause I know that it'd be
There are
tougher.
several volunteer organizations that provide some rides for people to vote. I don't, you have to talk to the clerk about, we don't provide anything. Any further discussion? All right, we're ready to vote on the motion. Those in favor? Those opposed?
Nay.
Okay,
I'd like to
probably need a roll call.
have a roll call.
Let's do a roll call, Matt.
Goss,
No.
Harper,
No.
King,
Yes.
Lokshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
No.
Paul,
No.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Storr,
Yes.
Straub,
Yep.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Benich Thiernot,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Wolken,
No.
Carter,
Yes.
Cowart,
Yes.
Esri,
No.
Furtado,
Yes.
Patterson,
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, we're now to items A through C, which has to do with the ARPA funding. I'm going to take all three together unless there's objection. Okay, these are for IGAs, for the housing, with the Housing Authority, for the things that were authorized to be paid out of the ARPA funds. Can I get a motion to adopt resolution number 2022-179, authorizing intergovernmental agreement to provide financial assistance for emergency family shelter for the landlord housing incentives, which is resolution number 20180, and for housing supportive services, which is resolution number 2022-181. Mr. Patterson, Ms. Carter, any discussion on these? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. If there's no further business, we can move on to discussion items. Okay, great. We have several people here tonight. The first, I've put in your packet the summary of grant writing activities so that you're just aware of how that's been going. And if you decide you want to do funding in the budgets, we can discuss that later. The next is the American Rescue Plan Act. We have some folks here tonight to talk about their programs that were either not included in some of the study sessions or didn't fit in some of the study sessions because of their topics. So wanted to give them the opportunity tonight because the board has not had a chance to hear these proposals. So the first one is the I Read, I Count program from the Chamber of Commerce. Madeline Herman is here to speak about it this evening. Just push the middle button on the mic. Yep.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. My name is Madeline Herman. I'm the Director of Public Policy at the Champaign County Chamber of Commerce, here today on behalf of the Champaign County Chamber of Commerce and its community partners to discuss a vital program for our community, I Read, I Count. In 2019, the Chamber, in partnership with the Chamber Foundation, United Way of Champaign County, CU Schools Foundation, Parkland College, Champaign Community Coalition, District 116, and Unit 4, launched a reading and math literacy program, I Read, I Count, aimed at reducing the achievement gap in our schools. As we piloted the program in 2019, we were starting to see some very promising and measurable results. Then the COVID-19 pandemic hit. So essentially, we are back to square one with even more hurdles to overcome due to learning loss. This program is unique in that it pairs volunteers with kindergarten or first grade students for 1 hour a week over the course of approximately 7 weeks, give or take a couple on either end. This provides a unique one-on-one learning opportunity for those students struggling with reading and math comprehension. Our community is home to the world-renowned University of Illinois. What happens in this community changes the world, but too many children in the university's backyard are not meeting or exceeding third grade math and reading levels. We have to do better. As leaders in the community, we all work in a space of promoting all the fantastic attributes that make Champaign County a great place to work and raise a family. It feels counterintuitive to talk about real challenges facing our community, but we cannot overcome this challenge if we are unwilling or not wanting to name it. We are fortunate to have 2 solid school systems in Champaign and Urbana. However, not all children have the same foundation for success, especially for some of our youngest residents. Life circumstances can impact their education, and these circumstances are often beyond things that we can imagine. And there's only so much that a teacher with 25 students can accomplish in a single day. Through I Read, I Count, we can put the community in our schools and make a difference. Here is the challenge. In Champaign Unit 4, 25.6% of students met or exceeded third grade reading levels on standardized tests. 31% of students met or exceeded third grade math level on standardized tests. In Urbana District 116, 5.6% of students met or exceeded third grade reading level on standardized tests. 14.9% of students met or exceeded in third grade math. According to the Governor's Foundation on Early Literacy, according to the National Assessment of Adult Literacy, 2/3 of students who cannot read proficiently by the end of 4th grade will end up in jail or on welfare. 85% of all juveniles who interface with the juvenile court system are functionally low literate. Juvenile incarceration reduces the probability of high school completion and increases the probability of incarceration later in life. Students who drop out of high school are 5 times more likely than high school graduates to be arrested in their lifetime. Students who drop out of high school are also 63% more likely to be incarcerated than their peers with 4-year college degrees. We can change these statistics if we work collectively to work together to make it happen. This is the foundation for which our community's children build the rest of their lives. What we do now or fail to do, it determines our future. By not acting, we are making a choice. The need today is twofold. One, we need people. We have 14 schools this fall with both kindergarten and first grade students who are in need of extra help. This program isn't rocket science. It's a caring adult spending 1 hour a week in a classroom, and during that hour, they work for 15 minutes with 3 to 4 students doing activities designed for this program. This hour makes a difference. In 2019, we had students start the program not knowing any of their letters, either upper or lower case. And by the end of the program, they knew all 26 letters in both upper and lower case, and they could spell their name. I've been a volunteer since 2019 with the program, and I've had the opportunity to witness firsthand how much growth can occur in such a short period of time. And I'll tell you that the confidence a student will demonstrate as they gain towards skills mastery is amazing. This year, the program starts on October 10th and runs through December 2nd. We need hundreds of volunteers. Volunteering and or encouraging your constituents to volunteer is part of this initiative and is an excellent way to be invested in our future workforce. Just 7 hours a week will make a difference in a child's life. Giving students a solid foundation in reading and math literacy is giving a student opportunity. The deadline for volunteers to apply for either Unit 4 or District 116 is Friday, August 26th. I do have applications with me to volunteer, as well as they can be found on the Champaign County Chamber of Commerce's website. The second part of my being here today is to urge you to consider I Read, I Count for any future funding opportunities, such as future ARPA dollars. This program is set to become a life-changing mainstay in our community with investment. In the years to come, it is our hope to expand the program in the county, invest in stipends for coordinators and teachers, effectively and efficiently market the program to volunteers, and ultimately change lives. We are always happy to come and speak with you or anyone about this program, and I'm also pleased to be here and answer any questions tonight. Again, thank you for your time.
Are there any questions for Madeline? Ms. Carter?
So the program, is it during school hours or is it after school?
It is during school hours. Each school will set different time slots that volunteers can come in, so they may vary across all 14 schools.
And do you have any data on Black students in each district?
I don't have that data readily available, but I'd be happy to get that data for you.
Thank you.
Ms. Lakshan?
I'm sorry, could you tell me again, what is the total time commitment for a volunteer?
So this year we're asking for approximately, when you count training and orientation to be a volunteer, 10 to 11 hours.
That's across the entire 7-week program, you said?
Yes, so it
Okay.
would be 1 hour a week for the 7 weeks of the program, plus an approximately 1 hour orientation at the specific school, and 1 hour of training at the district office.
Ms. Straub?
Hi. As a parent of public school students in the area, I just want to say thank you. You know, whatever we can do early to get kids succeeding is so important. Where would I find this information if I wanted to share it on our social media sites or things like that? How could we help?
Thank you. I would recommend going to the Champaign County Chamber of Commerce's Facebook page or the United Way's Facebook page or any of our community partners. We've been actively sharing this and promoting this on social media, and we would encourage everyone to share the posts.
Mr. Summers?
Just a comment. I know from my time on the school board in Urbana that one-on-one support with students in need of assistance can make a significant difference in their outcomes. This I Read, I Count already has strong community partners in place, and I've had the privilege of serving on 2 of those boards. I would be interested in seeing if you've reached out to School District 137 in Rantoul, which is K through 8, to see if they would be interested or available to participate in this plan as well. Thank you.
Ms. Furtado?
Since I'm the numbers person, can you give me a more concrete idea of the financial ask?
So these are preliminary numbers as we are coming back from the COVID-19 pandemic. This is the first semester in which we will be both in Champaign and Urbana schools. I know in the future, Mr. Summers, we would love to expand to Rantoul, but we must have the resources to do that. Preliminary numbers, and I'd be happy to follow up with more concrete with you, Ms. Furtado, in the future. We are looking at about approximately $200,000 over the course of 2 years. This would be at a rate of serving 921 students at approximately $125, $130 a student.
Just to follow up, so would that be, are you asking us for the full 200K? Are there other funders? I mean, the program's starting in October, so I'm assuming, right, you've got some sort of resources in place. So I guess if you could follow up on that a little bit.
Of course. The number I'm presenting today with that, when we're talking about 200,000, this program can continue where it's at right now. We do have some funding in place. If we were able to access more like $200,000, this would be the pathway to which we could pay stipends for school coordinators, create resources for students so that way when we're working with them in just the spring or fall semesters, we can provide books or math games to take home and continue throughout winter or summer break. The money we would be seeking from the county board, and when I follow up with a more formalized proposal with you, would be the money that would unlock the full potential of this program and set us up for a foundation of expansion and impact well into the future.
Ms. Carter?
Real quick, could you tell me the data that's used to see how many prisons are being used? What grades of data is used for math and I think writing? Or is it reading and writing? Reading and writing.
So the data we use to compare is the standardized testing that's conducted in 3rd grade from the state of Illinois and the school districts. That is all reported on the school district databases that you can find. And then to determine which student how many students, that's what the school districts in each school provides us, is this program does target the students at most need. And those are the students that would be in the program working with volunteers one-on-one. So it's all provided from the district.
I'm sorry, one more question. Will the volunteers be paid any stipends?
I'm so sorry, could you please repeat that?
Will the volunteers be paid for any stipends during this program?
No, this is in true volunteer work where we're very gracious that our volunteers just donate their time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the program. Those numbers are pretty bad. I think it does have an impact on the kids and their families. What happens if there's not enough volunteers for the funding? How does that connected and work?
If there's not enough volunteers, not enough students will be served. This may mean a couple things. It might mean a reduction in schools. It could potentially mean a reduction in the number of students that can be seen within an hour or within 2 hours or what have you when we look at the sum total of a student's week in the classroom. Oftentimes students will see different volunteers throughout the week to get that one-on-one time. So there is a risk that we could be further hindering the community's children, so that's why it's crucial that we get the volunteers.
Are you in a limited number of schools right now within districts?
The districts each have given us the names of the schools that they believe have the resources and time and availability to participate in the program. So yes, it is limited, but those are the district decisions.
Do you know with Unit 4 which schools the program exists in?
I don't know which ones that will be in this semester's program, but I know it's been in a variety of the schools. I have personally volunteered in both International Prep Academy and Westside Elementary over the course of my 4 semesters in volunteering.
Have you reached out to the PTAs for these local elementary schools to see if they're interested in either gathering volunteers or volunteering themselves?
I am confident we've had conversations in the past, but I will certainly follow up with our Director of Workforce Readiness to see if that connection has been built for this semester.
I would encourage you to contact the PTA Council because all the schools in the districts meet with the monthly and they have contacts with the various schools because they change every year.
Wonderful, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for coming tonight, Madeline.
Thank you all.
Okay, and Chad Hoffman is here from Habitat for Humanity. You also have a handout at your desk, I believe, from him. You can come on up, Chad. Did you get your flash drive, Madeline? Okay. Yeah, if IT can put it on the screen, the IT for the Habitat Humanity. Thank you.
Did I hit the right button? All right, I'm on. So I'm Chad Hoffman with Habitat for Humanity of Champaign County. I've been with the organization for a little over 3 years now, and it's been a great organization, volunteered for a long time. I think most people have a little bit of experience with Habitat over their life and their commitment to this community, but there is an affordable housing crisis going on in our country, and Champaign County is definitely not immune from that. Rentals are extremely high in our county, and there is really no new low-income affordable housing being built at all, other than through nonprofit means. So this has really been a focus of ours. We do. Historically, we have built for families at a 0% interest rate. We have built over 125 homes in the last 30 years throughout the county. We do select our families based on their level of need, willingness to partner, and ability to repay a mortgage. So it is a hand up, not a hand out. We do believe strongly in providing the skills to homeowners. And that's not only Habitat homeowners, but anybody in our community looking for financial counseling, financial education, or credit counseling even to get into a home. We do that for over 100 families every year, free of charge. A lot of our counseling programs don't always lead to a Habitat home, but we're all able to relay them onto a bank, to other organizations to help them get a mortgage to a more traditional means. But these are 90% of the time first-time home buyers. So we're really doing a good job of educating and helping families move forward and meet their dream of home ownership. Additionally, we have the Restore. That is a thrift shop, obviously, that is to fund our mission, but also to provide low-cost goods to the community, and obviously keep things out of landfills, recycle, reuse, and make sure we're serving our community through that as well. How we build, we do work with volunteers significantly to build our homes. It's one of the ways we do keep our costs low. So we do have volunteers on almost every Saturday, painting, raising walls, all type of variety of things to get that house built for our community. Obviously, we're building on empty lots typically, empty lots either owned by cities or other government agencies potentially. And usually there's no property tax charged on those until, obviously we take ownership and then have a family move in and pay a lifetime of property tax on that home. So millions of dollars have been poured back into the community through Habitat for Humanity in that regard. What's been the COVID impact at Habitat? On the scale of 1 to 10, we were a 10. There's just no question. The Restore was closed for multiple months at the beginning of the pandemic. Our homeowners work entry-level positions a lot of the times, making slightly more than minimum wage, but working for some of the larger employers in town typically, and they had their wages reduced, hours, layoffs, making it very challenging for the homeowners to pay their mortgage. Habitat's always believed in owning the mortgages of our homeowners. It's one way we support them. So if there's ever a bump, a blip, or something that they need help with as they move forward, we're always there for them. This was obviously a huge blip because we had multiple homeowners hitting the same blip at the same time. No revenue coming in from our Restore. And then our housing was also paused. Our building was also paused for safety concerns because of COVID. And we didn't have any volunteers on site for multiple months. So it was pretty big for us, as it was for most, but definitely really a huge hit in terms of what we were able to do. Additionally, really construction materials were at the forefront of inflation. Their prices were skyrocketing. Lumber was insane and still is high, much higher than it was before the pandemic. So it was a big impact on us in terms of when COVID started and even still where we're at today. So kind of bottom line, I came to the board this evening with a request for funding, really to help us offset our increased costs of materials for the next year to continue to let us build. Habitat builds 4 to 5 houses each year. We do have 4 on the schedule for next year. From pre-pandemic to post-pandemic, and we've done everything to reduce costs we can. We're still looking at $30,000 more per house. So I'm basically requesting the board that we, help us build those 4 houses in our community. That's $120,000 for that increase. All homeowners that are part of our program are below 60% AMI. In terms of the last, our homeowners are 90% minority, so we do serve a community that is in need, and I'm just proud to be part of Habitat, and I hope the board takes a look at this proposal.
Okay, any questions for Chad? Ms. Carter?
First off, thank you and your volunteers. You guys have done such good work in this community over the years. Some of my friends have had the opportunity of home ownership through Habitat, and I think your wraparound services is phenomenal. I would like to see, do you have like a percentage of single parent households that you've supported with home ownership?
Our percentage on that, the last 3 years, I'll speak from my time there, is 75% of single-family homeowners.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for all that you do in our community. I would definitely support this.
Yeah, and I can say that if homeowners are available for traditional financing or can get bank loans, we will move them in that direction. But our homeowners are not able to get that traditional financing for a variety of reasons, and usually it is the wages that are the most challenging piece of that. But they are working full-time jobs and working hard in our community, and we want to help them have that dream, make that dream a reality.
And you do. The fact that, you know, you understand that if you can afford rent, you definitely can afford a mortgage. But the hoops and hurdles that single parents and sometimes minimum wage workers endure with trying to purchase their own, you're there, and thank you. We appreciate that.
Ms. Furtado?
We sort of had like a timing, and the last proposal laid out the timing. So for these $120,000 for would that be for next year's houses? I'm assuming, I'm guessing you're kind of coming towards the end of your construction season?
Yeah, we'll actually be putting foundations in for 2 houses this fall. We'll get them roughed in hopefully before winter hits, and then we will start 2 more foundations in the spring.
Okay.
And get those finished up really in 2023. So this was really for our next 4 houses is what I projected out. Our fiscal year is July through June, so this would be really our 4 builds for our current fiscal year that we're already in.
I was asking because we're on a calendar fiscal year, and so we're about to enter into the budget process here in a couple of weeks, and it goes until November, right? And so for the most part, most of the first allocation of the ARPA money is gone, so that's where, you know, something like this would probably come out of. Right, so like that, probably the decision would be November, and then so I just wanted to see.
In terms of timing, I mean, there is a big section of expense that comes at the front end of building a house, but there's still plenty of expenses as the house continues to build. So I think that it would be more than adequate that we would have more expenses by far to still offset that in November, December, into January, because the houses we rough in will still have all the finish work in the spring.
Okay.
Everything to complete inside the house beyond that.
Mr. Williams?
Do you know where the next 4 houses are going to be built?
Actually, yes. 2 of them, both will be in Urbana. It is on Eade Street and Kerr Street. In Urbana is the next 2, and then the next 2 after that are actually going to be in Rantoul, which we're pretty excited about. It's been several years since we've built outside of Champaign and Urbana, but we are going to do that, and we're always looking for opportunities to build in other areas.
Okay, thanks, Chad. All right, Kathy, do you want to come up and do your report?
Good evening. We have the monthly update and the report. We've started to add outcomes as we collect the information and as they provide that to us. And also as the funds are getting spent, we're starting to get more of those outcomes reported. So we've started including that in there. We've also included just a normal summary of contracts that are currently in process and contracts that we're working on to either negotiate or get signatures or finalize in some way. A lot of these are in various stages, so I'm happy to answer specific questions if there are any. And we also have the schedule included of the tasks and where we're at on that, the normal update for that, and the normal revenue and expense projections as of June 30th. We've also included, similar to last year, when we had a priority planning kind of chart for you to look at, we've included that for thinking about the 2023 budget. And so that's been updated since the Department of Treasury has updated all the categories this year. And so that's a little bit different than last year's, but it's in there in case that's helpful as you're thinking about the budget. And aside from that, I'd be happy to answer specific questions.
Ms. Furtado.
In the projected for 2023 and 2024, the only two things from the county, well, besides the jail, the two things I see from the county side are the clerk's equipment and the attorney's digital evidence. Do we have any more sense of specificity? I know that through the budgeting process, folks turned in their request for the budget. And I don't want to jump ahead because I know we're about to get the budgets, but I just wanted to know if there was just like a dollar amount, or maybe I just missed it.
Yes, so Darlene included on the third page of the memo, just kind of a chart of what's been requested from the different departments. It looks like 1.7 million is the total for the department request for next year.
I'm sorry, where is it in the packet? I just have to admit, I'm like not operating in all my
It's
cylinders.
page 86 in the packet.
86.
Yes.
We do not have a page 86.
It's not page
Okay, so
86.
I'm not just a crazy person. Okay, I was like, I feel like you were referencing something that I'm like not seeing. Okay, can we get that page?
Yeah, it's not in, I'm sorry.
That's
it's not
okay,
in there.
that's okay. I just thought I was just like losing it. Okay, if we could get that page, that would be, I think, really helpful for us as we try to determine, when Brad comes up and tells us he needs all our money for broadband, right? I think that would be kind of helpful. Okay, awesome. All right, that makes me feel a little bit better because I was like, I'm really missing something here.
It's
It
on the-
is? Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I guess we missed a page in the copy machine. Okay, sorry.
The other thing, at some point in this process, like towards the end of it, I think that it would make sense for us to do like a report on how we spent that, like a formal, actual, nice looking, these are the outcomes, this is what we spent the money on. So one of the things is maybe can we encourage, especially the folks that are doing programs and services, to send us pictures so that we can actually have something. I mean, it's a lot of money that we're investing into this community. So being able at the end to say, here is what we did with it, right? I think would be awesome.
The other thing I just wanted to let you guys know while you're trying to decide funding, there were two conversations I had this week from organizations, one of which you have potentially talked about committing additional funding, which is SILBA, the land bank. We gave them $250,000 in the first payment, and there was conversation that you would give them another $250,000 in the second payment. They are requesting to know a commitment at this time because they are trying to write a grant for the fall and are needing a one-to-one match. And so they want to say, can they ask for 250 or can they ask for 500,000? Ms. Furtado.
So I had Mr. Paul called me about this earlier today, and I had an opportunity to discuss it with our caucus. Our caucus is fine with you issuing a letter that says that our intention is to do the 250 in order to allow them to leverage that. And I had told Mike that earlier, that if he needed, I think I said it in the meeting. So we're fine with it, if y'all are fine with it, to just say, so that and I think if there's a letter from you that says that that's our intention, that should serve for his grant
They
purposes.
don't need the money
But
right
yes,
at this moment.
that
Yeah.
is the intention, at least, I believe, of this body. Would you
Is there
agree,
any
Jim?
objection to that?
Okay.
Okay, then we will do that. And then the second request also came from the Park District, which you have heard their proposal, but just asked them to wait until potentially Urbana made decisions. They also have construction costs rising and are trying to get started on their construction. And he said they would really appreciate a commitment earlier than when, because Urbana is kind of poking around. So but that's up to you guys what you want to do. So you're saying no, okay?
I'm just speaking for myself here, but my strong opinion is until Urbana decides what they're committing on this, that I do not feel comfortable with us making, Urbana needs to commit.
Okay, is that okay with everybody? Okay, all right, I will let them know. And then the last thing to talk about tonight in terms of the ARPA information is that we do have the Broadband Committee report, and we have folks here to talk about that. Brad Yukon is chairing that committee. Tim Arbiter is our consultant from Findlay, and I think a couple of the board members are here that were on that committee, and also Mike is here that is a community member on the committee. So there are lots of people here to answer questions. Go ahead, Brad.
All right, well, good evening, everyone. Really appreciate the time tonight to address the board and really give them a final report on our broadband task force. We had a great group of individuals that gave a lot of their time on that in various aspects, and really appreciate the commitment they made. So to start off with, just a quick reminder that in March of 2022, Findlay Engineering and CCG Consulting completed the county's broadband plan, which is posted on the county board's website, or the county's website. Within that plan, the leading recommendation was to engage with existing broadband providers in discussion to bring reliable and affordable internet service to the rural parts of the county where gaps existed and those areas that were grant eligible throughout Champaign County. With that in mind, the Broadband Task Force developed, with the help of Findlay Engineering, a request for information, or an RFI. The RFI focused on two aspects: how much more would be needed to set aside from the ARPA funds to meet the county's goals, keeping in mind the county had already budgeted $3 million in ARPA funds received last year, and recommend utilization of the previously budgeted money, i.e. that $3 million, that will be used for upcoming state and federal broadband programs. We released an RFI on June 10th with a due date of June 30th. This was posted on the county's website and was shared with 15 county broadband providers directly. We received 9 applications back. These are also posted on the county's website. The task force reviewed these applications and narrowed the list to 5 providers we wanted to interview. Those 5 were Frontier Communications, Comcast, Nextlink, Volo, and CCG Fiber. Each of the 5 providers were asked to submit additional information and were interviewed by an interview sort of subcommittee for an hour. Each provider answered 12 questions that they knew in advance, had time for a presentation, and we had a Q&A segment to wrap up the interview. After the interviews, the interview subcommittee discussed the proposals for an additional 5 hours, developing a recommendation to the full task force. On Monday of this week, the subcommittee presented the recommendation, which was request an additional $7 million of ARPA funds from the county board. And to clarify, or briefly clarify, it's anticipated that these funds would be used as matching grant dollars, both on this for state and federal grants, fiber in the ground, connection with from the road to the home, address connectivity and affordability with low-income residents in grant-eligible areas, and specifically develop a project addressing several connectivity and affordability issues within the Housing Authority of Champaign County. The second part of our recommendation was request the county executive begin negotiations with Volo and Nextlink to receive part of the original $3 million ARPA allocation dedicated to broadband to pursue broadband grants for fiber-related projects. This recommendation was approved by the task force, and now we're presenting this recommendation both to the full county board and the county executive. So with that, I'll take questions or comments.
Questions? Ms. Furtado.
So first, thank you. I think when we set up, hey, we should have a broadband committee, this was not what we anticipated. So like the level of work y'all put into this is pretty phenomenal. So a couple of questions. One, I think we kind of got this answered in our caucus, but all of it's going to be fiber, correct?
The reports from Finley and in agreement as a task force that said that was our preference, and that's definitely the way we lean. And then there's a lot of advantages to fiber, of course, and I'm not going to get into all that,
Right.
but yes, that's to answer it shortly, yes.
Two, I know that some of the money, some of the grants that are out there, we cannot use ARPA money as a match. So one of the things that we might want to consider as a body is if we need to get to this full dollar amount in order to, because this would take care of the county, basically, right?
That's correct. We believe the 7 million would get us extremely close.
Right.
And if some additional federal dollars came through, we would be able to address it in an entire county.
So one of the things that we could potentially consider, and I just want to throw this out there, is we are allowed to allocate up to $10 million in revenue recapture for the county, right? All counties are allowed to do that. That's how, for example, we're paying for the jail, right? The $5 million for the jail. In addition, we've got what, $1.7 million here, which is why I was asking that question. So that means we still have $3.3 million in money that the county could spend on essentially any county project that they want, right?
So County Plaza came out of that as well. That was 2 million.
Okay, so we still have some money, I guess is what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is if was something that we needed to do as a county to a county facility that we could spend ARPA money on, and then we could use county money to match a federal grant. Do you know what I'm saying? That might be something we'd want to consider down the road as we go through 2023 and 2024. So I don't advocate at all that we budget that way, but if that did come up, we might need to do like a budget amendment, switching out what funds pay for which things in order to make us eligible for a particular kind of grant. If you just look at the numbers, they don't quite add up, right? Like if we give the $7 million, we're above $40 million based on this chart. That said, I do think we should do everything in our power to get them to add up. I think that the ability for us to say we brought fiber broadband to everybody in Champaign County, it's a legacy, right? I mean, that's a big deal. And I think that, so trying to think about, I don't know if we're going to get exactly there, but as close to there as we can. And so I think there's two parts to the decision. There's one, are we going to give the other $7 million that they need to get it done? And that's something we have to determine through the budget process. But then there's the other part of it is, can we give Darlene the green light to get these two companies up and running with the $2.8 million that we have in this budget? And I think that's a decision we need to make tonight. So, and I did have an opportunity to listen to the meeting right before I came here. Mike, I heard you say in there, we need to let these companies know as soon as we can so they know, exactly what the range is. I mean, we can't do that until we go through the budget process for that much money. We have to, go through the whole budget process. But I will say our goal is to get us, there's definitely going to be more money for broadband next time. What the exact dollar amount is, we can't decide that tonight because there's a lot of moving parts to that question. But can we just kind of take a straw poll on the 2.8? Are we good to get that part of the process started?
I think Eric wanted to say something.
Yeah, a couple things. First, thank you, Brad. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everyone who came from Finley. You all did a remarkable amount of work in a short amount of time, very quietly. And you should toot your own horn a little bit more. I would strongly recommend that we direct this 2.8 tonight because we can. And I would also strongly recommend that we find a way, and I like Stephanie's ideas, to find that 7. If you go back in time, Mike came to us with what he thought it would take to get broadband to the whole county and to the underserved. And it was about 80.
And this is a 70-30 kind of program. So if we are able to do what's requested here, we get really close to that $80 million. I think it's something like 78 million or something. So I told Mike in the meeting, and I'll tell him again tonight, he's a genius. And he had it hit the nail on the head a long time ago. And I would really like to see this board get this done. It's one of the things that was so clearly spelled out in the ARPA money. And it's one of the things that makes such a concrete difference. And Jim, you talked about the polling places in Ludlow. I know that they use hotspots, but if we have good broadband up there, we don't have to provide that anymore. So I think we should do everything we can as a board to get this done, because that's going to be something that's going to last for decades that we did. So, and I appreciate all the work.
For the 7 million that is going to be, that you're asking for, in addition to the 2.8, is it going to be the same companies? Is there going to be another RFP that you're going to do? How does that work?
I think the anticipation is that it would be the same companies. However, there is the opportunity to kind of test the waters with the first 2.8. But our anticipation, I believe, the intention of the task force was that it would be the same two companies moving forward.
Tim, you might want to talk about how the area is divided, or what, all that sort of thing.
Wayne, did you have another question?
I had a couple more, but one was in the line of what Darlene was asking. So if I can just ask that question, and he can answer. You mentioned that we would be able, with this money, we'd be able to get pretty much the entire county. Like, who would we not get? Like, could you? I mean, I don't need specific addresses, but what are the types of properties we wouldn't get? And then if you could answer Darlene's question along with that.
Well, again, I think that where we're at, if we were able to get the 7 million on top of it, and again, there's one very large grant that's sort of hanging out there. That's the federal government that the county actually has nothing to do with, called RDOF. They have been dragging their feet, or the federal government has been lax in awarding that. They have initially awarded NextLink some funds for that, a substantial amount of funds, but they've not made their final decision yet. So when will they? I can't answer that. But again, once that's decided, I mean, that really impacts everything, because we will be able to cover the entire county if NextLink indeed does get awarded that grant.
I'm sorry, did Mike have?
And then I'll let Tim address, because Darlene's question dealt with how we segregated the county, and that was developed by Finlay, so I'll let them address that.
Don't want any feedback on my, Tim Arbeiter. I'm actually a director of broadband consulting for Finlay Engineering. Came and co-presented the March report. Previous to my role at Finlay, I was actually the director of broadband for the state of Missouri. So I've earned some stripes along the way, but it's been an absolute, if you would permit me just to take a little bit of deviation, absolutely impressed with your broadband task force. Envious, if you will. I wish I had some of these individuals at my statewide group that I had in Missouri. So you should be proud. You have a great group of volunteers on that task force, and I tip my hat to them. Kudos and the amount of hours that they spent. So to follow up about the money and will it get, and where are the areas that won't reach, based on the data and based on what the providers report, and based on what the state of Illinois is able to do through the Illinois broadband map, which is, some states do not have that robust of a map. Illinois does, so yay, another kudos. But state of Illinois, with concurrence, based on our analysis, the grant eligible areas in your county. So those grant eligible areas are those areas that are not receiving 100 megabits down, 20 megabits up, or higher. That's what's considered quote-unquote served. So we did have, in our analysis of Findlay, we broke up the county into 6 sectors, and that's primarily was driven by fiber to the home engineering of where the infrastructure makes sense to get to the households. So it broke down into 6 sectors. We then layered in the grant eligible areas by the state of Illinois, and we analyzed that as well and concurred. And so we issued that in the RFI. Here's the 6 sectors. Here's the grant eligible in those 6 sectors. Okay, provider community, tell us where you're interested. Tell us where you would like to expand in the county. And those that were forwarded by the task force for additional exploration expressed interest in all 6 sectors. So that was a big plus. They also presented fiber as one of their options. Now, they also considered other fixed wireless, but I will say on the federal guidelines, back to the nuances of the program, federal guidelines are very strong in their language on fiber preference. They fall short of requiring it, giving a little bit of leeway for those very hard to reach areas of the county that may need a fixed wireless solution. It's not, it's still on the table, but the language really guides the states, the counties, and the cities to do kind of fiber preference in their assessment. Back to your earlier question about there are federal and potential state programs, not yet, but there is one federal active program for a middle mile broadband that restricts cities, counties, and states from using their Arpa funding as matching. As counsel and as advisor to the county executive and to the broadband task force, we would strongly advise those and avoid those areas. That's not something those dollars need to go into. They need to go into appropriate programs that allow for that matching. This money is matching money to take the provider money to go for the state and federal money, which gets you a bigger pot and hopefully a bigger expanse covered of those 6 sectors. Forgive me, that was a long answer.
So between the 2 providers, it was my understanding from the presentation that you made at the committee that between the 2 providers, the intention would be to cover the entire county, either northeast split or southwest split, those kind of things. And that by the fact that we have 2 providers, it also gives us backup if one of them for some reason doesn't work or doesn't get a federal grant. There's no guarantee that they will, so we have some backup. If we just pick one, we would not have that. So those are some options. Did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. I'd just like to say thank you for all the work that you've done. I think we lead in a lot of areas, and this one, we are way ahead of the curve. I remember Stephanie and I having this conversation more than a year ago thinking we were going to be way behind the curve. We're way ahead of it. I mean, we're the only county that's this far, I believe, for certain in central Illinois, maybe in Illinois. So I think we need to support this. We need to figure out how to come up with the $7 million. It's way too valuable to be able to put this. This is life-changing for those folks that have never had this. I joke that I've got farmers that I talk to, and when you say hop on your email, I hear in the background I want to go bee, 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 bee. They're starting to connect dial-up because it's that slow. They're like, well, we're not going to get this in this conversation. So we call back in an hour. They're like, okay, it's finally loaded. I sent you a PDF that was less than 20 meg, and you can't upload it. So it's really a kudos to this county board for putting it as a priority, but also for our task force for doing a fantastic job. So I will support it, and I think we need to figure out how to find the money.
You mentioned households when you're looking at serving different areas of the counties. I have a question about how exactly you define households. So take an apartment complex, for example. Are you just talking about the complex with individual units, or say a trailer park? Are you talking about just the park and individual lots within the trailer park?
So if I heard your question, and I'm going to repeat it just to make sure, because I was a little bit struggling hearing a little bit. how do we handle single-family homes versus apartment complexes or multiple dwelling units, or even like, let's just say mobile home parks that have a lot of entities. Typically in these arrangements, we grabbed as much data, Finley grabbed as much data as we could that was accessible through county records that was available to us. Worked with electric co-ops to get meter data so we can tell when there's 16 meters versus 1. And we can also tell that based on addresses too, if the meters end up being 1 meter for the apartment complex and then the apartment owner divvies out the utilities, internally. We try to capture as much as those large units as we could in our analysis. The other thing too is now that we're moving into, which is the next phase with the provider community, the providers themselves will propose the project areas that encompass as much grant eligible area as their pocketbooks allow. And coupled with the county funds, the provider funds, they'll put the overall package together. Mind you, let's just talk about the state program, Connect Illinois. Right now, this may change, we don't know, when it goes live again, it has a $10 million grant cap. So that's going to drive the providers to look at the project area. They're scored. They get more points if they hook up as many homes as they possibly can. That's the intent of the dollars. So for the multiple dwelling units and the single family homes, or even for some of our parcels that have multiple fiber connections, the providers will know that intuitively based on their research of the market, and they will put that all together in their budget. I will tell you the Connect Illinois program is probably pretty sophisticated and pretty detailed. I know that because I've submitted one on behalf of another client in Central Illinois, and it's not an easy project. It's very detailed. They have to get detailed on their timeline, their budget, the number of households, timeline, and Connect Illinois will adhere to strict reporting from the providers. So I think back to the pictures and how do we spend our money, that was a recommendation to the task force that I gave. Whatever Connect Illinois requires, Champaign County also should get a copy of that at the same time because of your investment into those projects. That's going to give you all the data that you need and to see their progress reports. So that I hope that addresses your questions, that they do package that in the model and they account for that.
And then one last question for Brad. If we do allocate the entire up to 10 million from this pot, I know you said there's a fiber preference. I mean, under what circumstances would fixed wireless be acceptable?
Well, I mean, use of the ARPA funds has stipulations that it has to meet the federal guidelines, which is 100 by 100 symmetrical, or that it's proved that it can be scalable to that. I think that's where that fixed wireless could come in. Again, if it's not at 100 and 100 symmetrical, can it prove it can get there? Finley, I think, and I think not just Finley, I think the industry at this second has questions of whether fixed wireless can get to 100 by 100 on a regular basis. Now, the good news with that is if there was an instance where we went fixed wireless, they do have to prove that to the federal government. This isn't just, oh yeah, we can do it. No, they have to prove in tests and tests and tests that they can get to that on a regular basis. So that wouldn't necessarily be relied upon the county to say, well, they're doing fixed wireless here, I assume they're getting 100. No, the federal government will require that, and there'll be documentation that has to be submitted and proven to the federal government.
So I'm only speaking for myself. While I don't have an issue with fixed wireless in general, I would rather not see us allocate money to fixed wireless that uses unlicensed spectrum. I just personally have a problem with that because it's the people's spectrum and you have corporations profiting off the people's spectrum. If they were to use licensed spectrum, I mean, obviously, I wouldn't have a problem with that because that is infrastructure. So I just wanted to express that, and so you have that going forward. And if you guys didn't understand the words I used, just see me after.
The other component of the federal guidelines, in addition to the speed levels, also has language in there about providing constant and consistent and reliable coverage to the entire project area that you're proposing. Unfortunately, we have had some bad eggs in the industry in the previous years that have only done pockets of what they've been awarded. And so they don't completely cover the whole area. So the language is both fiber preference, as strong as it can be, speeds, but then also if you're proposing a project area, you better make sure you can cover it. Because nobody wants to spend this money and not connect houses. And so I would say, and we have fixed wireless companies as clients. It is probably, I think, early on in a lot of these federal programs, you're going to see heavy fiber investment. And then as we get closer to 2024, and then when the BEAD funding starts coming, there may be more fixed wireless solutions. The good thing about that is the fiber is going to be closer to the towers, or we're going to see all towers get fiber instead of microwave. So know that, I think, for future rounds, that fixed wireless, or even the possibility of if a provider proposes a predominantly fiber deployment and puts fixed wireless on the edge, just to get it out further. I've seen that too in my time at the state of Missouri.
So have you guys done any future proofing with what you've planned for the rollout here? Because I know you know how fast technology changes and how, what was it, 56K is enough for anybody, I think Bill Gates said back in 76. And so is there any, are we building looking towards the future, or are we building looking towards right now?
We'll maybe tag team this answer, but I'll give you an example. So in my day job, I work with a lot with farmers, and they are getting that poor internet connectivity that Mr. Goss referenced earlier. And they come to me and say, boy, 100, I don't need that. It's I just want something better. And if it's even slightly better, and I'm like, now hold it. We're in a once in a generation, once in a lifetime for us, all of us sitting in this room, investment by the federal and state government. We need to be getting to that 100 and 100 needs to be the bare minimum. We really need to be getting faster speeds. And I think through fiber with the technology, they will be able to push faster speeds through as we progress moving forward. But again, I agree with you 100%. The 100 and 100 symmetrical should be viewed as a minimum moving forward. We cannot accept that as, hey, we did it, this is our top speed. No. That we have to get faster as we move forward, because it's only going to be crazier and more demand on internet as we move forward. And most of us in this room don't even know what that future demand is going to be, of course.
And the lifespan of a fiber deployment, 30 to 50 years. And why such a range? You don't know how many times a contractor is going to cut out the fiber line. So, but once it's in, once the glass is in, it's really about the backhaul equipment, about getting higher speeds. Interestingly enough, through the RFI process, we actually saw some of the providers were saying they were all in their fiber-related areas starting to offer 2 gigabit packages, symmetrical, or even up to 10 if you're a commercial enterprise and you're willing to pay for that. So, that may seem mind-blowing right now, but if you have someone who is doing a lot of data-heavy work and they're doing it from their home and they're doing it remotely, they can stay right here in Champaign County. They don't have to go anywhere. They can stay right here. So fiber is considered the leading future-proofing option. It's the equipment and the central office stuff that you're replacing to get higher speeds. So.
Just 2 quick logistical questions. So we've talked a lot about grant writing, and I saw from your report that Mary Ellen has done some of the advanced work on that. Are we anticipating, are the companies going to be the recipients of these grants? Is the county going to be, who's writing them? How logistically are we accomplishing that piece?
So she probably will not be writing grants.
Okay.
But potentially the county still needs somebody to move forward with Tim or with
Like a
with them
liaison.
to see who, you know, how they're doing.
Right.
And so it's more like a project manager type
Right.
role. And she's willing to take that on because she's been involved with it.
Okay.
So it's not actually writing the grants probably for
Okay.
us. We probably won't be the recipients of the grants.
Okay, so that would be done in-house by the companies, is that what we're anticipating?
Yes.
But
So-
I do think, to your point, I do think that role, that liaison role is incredibly important. Secondly, it seems to me somewhat ambitious to build out the entire county's fiber between 2023 and 2026, especially given that there's going to have to be easements and, you know what I mean, all that kind of thing. Are we confident if we have the money that we could get it built out that fast? Because if not, that's where we're like, because there's nothing left after 2026. Any money we don't spend, we got to give back, right? So is that timeline realistic in the actual construction?
I'll answer your add on to Darlene's response to your first question. We do anticipate that the companies would be the grant applicants, not the county, and that Mary Ellen would be in a support role helping with various questions that they have. These grants can be lengthy and they are very detailed. And I think Mary Ellen can be a great resource for them. So that's where we view that. As far as the timeline, we've talked with both companies. They're very aware of the deadlines. I mean, this isn't new information to them of these deadlines. And they're both very confident they can meet it. I know they both have plans of how to move forward. And we did talk to them about the challenges with equipment and will they be able to get that and delays in that. And both of them were very confident that they can, again, meet those deadlines. They can get the equipment they need, whether that be the fiber, the conduit, the various other pieces. And so, we feel good about it moving forward.
Thanks for all the work you guys did. Is there a way that we could either hire Finley or comparable company to manage these two companies as they go forward to the plan that you guys already did as far as grant writing? Because I know you guys are pretty prolific at grant writing for your own company.
Yeah.
Is there any way that there's a way that we could use some other service to make sure we don't just assign a bunch of money to these two companies and then have no professional help with them in the build out? Is that realistic?
Well, I think one of the things that we had asked all of the providers during the process is, what is your communications plan with county leadership, with citizens within the project area? So it was a clearly delineated in the interview process. You have to have a formal communication structure with the county moving forward if you're a recipient. So, the companies themselves, many of them have grant writers on their staff. Some will probably retain other entities to help them with grant writing. I think just having a liaison situation in place may suffice because the reporting standards for the state of Illinois and for the federal government is intense. It is not an easy thing to overcome. And many of these companies are used to that because they're already used to doing USDA programs, Federal Communication Commission programs. So many of them are fairly well sophisticated and a well-oiled machine in that regard.
I guess I'm not saying these companies aren't qualified or capable. That my thing is the communication to the county is constantly changing. So there's elections. There's over the time frame of this happening. I would hate to dump information to someone who, like a new county executive or someone else who's pivotal in that position, and then have to go through the coaching of a new person, opposed to having someone who then the county as a whole could make in charge of us meeting those guidelines.
So that's kind of one reason that I asked Mary Ellen if she'd be willing to stay on, because she's been involved with this task force since the beginning, and she was willing to do that. But she's a part-time employee, but that would be her role then with the county at that point. The only other thing she's been doing with the grant writing is researching other grants. She has not actually applied for anything else yet. So potentially another person could, if we did go for other grants, there could be another person that applies for things, or she might be able to do that as well during the down times with this. She's not going to be busy all the time with this. So that was my attempt at trying to get somebody to kind of have some consistency that had the background. And then also, of course, Brad is still here, and you guys need to decide. The task of this committee was to bring recommendations to the board, and they've now accomplished that. So the question would be, do you want this task force to continue on an ad hoc basis? They won't meet probably regularly, but if there was a decision to be made again, they could help with that. I would recommend that you do that. Or you could just call another committee in the future if you want to do that. But their task is actually done at this point. Go ahead, Chris.
Would the committee members be willing to continue?
We would have to ask that. I mean, as chair, I can reach out to each individual and ask, and some of them are obviously here tonight because several members are here, part of your peers on the county board, but I have no problem with asking that of the committee. I suspect there would be interest in it, of moving forward.
And then by the same token, that there could be at some point in future a need to do another contract with Finley, as they've helped with getting us to this point. There might be some reason that they would want, we'd have some step in the future that we would need help with, and they would be basically what I would consider our professional experts if we needed to get that done. Does that sound okay? Yeah.
At some point, you need to get a picture of the committee.
Correct, yes.
As an historian, I'm actually serious. Like, get a picture.
Well, I will admit, and again, I commend my colleagues on the committee. I mean, they were generally flexible. We wanted to be expedient with this and not delay meeting after meeting, but we were concise in our meetings and wanted to move things to meet various deadlines that the county had to meet this deadline of presenting our recommendation as you get started with your budget process. So the committee was great and very flexible to work with, and thank you for your comments and your appreciation of our work. Thank you.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, what do we need to do to get the 2.8? Do you want a motion to get the 2.8, or we just need to do a straw
It's been
poll?
allocated, so I can go ahead and do like I have with the other. If there's no objections to it, I can go ahead and start negotiating contracts and get started on that.
Yeah, no objections.
Okay. All right, I will do that. Thank you both for coming tonight, and thanks, Mike, for joining them. You didn't get to say much back there, but thanks for joining them, and thanks for your work on the committee. Okay. So, seeing no further business, we will now adjourn.